It's funny how you can drive for hours and not see a single soul. Just trees, asphalt, and the setting sun bleeding across the horizon. That was my escape. Or at least, that's what I told myself. I was running from something, but I couldn't have told you what. I just knew I had to get away. The house my uncle left me seemed like the perfect refuge. When I pulled up, the last light of day was catching on the sharp angles of the roof, making it look like a shard of glass. Inside, the air was still and cold, smelling of dust and disinfectant. It was surgically clean, unnervingly so. Everything was draped in white sheets, like ghosts of furniture waiting for someone to arrive. It felt less like a home and more like a museum exhibit that had been closed for years. My name was written on it in my uncle's spidery handwriting. I picked it up. I set it down, unopened. I wasn't ready. Not yet. I told myself I'd open it in the morning, when the sun was up, when the world felt a little less hollow. As dusk settled, a strange anxiety began to creep in. The massive floor-to-ceiling windows that seemed so beautiful during the day now felt like giant, dark eyes staring in from the woods. I found myself rushing from room to room, pulling the heavy velvet curtains closed, shutting out the encroaching night. The fabric was so thick it seemed to swallow the sound, plunging the house into an even deeper silence. With the last curtain drawn, I felt a small, fleeting sense of security. I looked at the digital clock on the oven. 7:48 p.m. Then a sound shattered the quiet. A shrill metallic ringing that clawed at the stillness. It took me a moment to place it. On a small end table, half hidden by a sheet, was an old rotary phone. A relic. Black and heavy, it looked completely out of place in this hyper-modern house. It rang again, insistent, demanding. Who could possibly be calling? No one knew I was here. My hand hovered over the receiver, my heart hammering against my ribs. The ringing felt wrong, like a signal from a place I didn't want to know about. It stopped as abruptly as it began, plunging the house back into that waiting silence. But now, the silence was different. It wasn't empty anymore. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that I wasn't alone. I tried to reason with myself. It's an old house. They make strange noises. The phone was probably a crossed wire. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. A grown man hiding under a table. But from that low angle, the house looked different, distorted. The moonlight filtering through a gap in the curtains cast long, dancing shadows on the far wall. And then I saw it. It moved with a slow, deliberate crawl. Its shape was wrong. It was a silhouette of something impossible, something that had no right to exist, and it was moving through my house. I don't know how long I stayed under that table, paralyzed by fear. The shadow eventually slid out of view, but its presence lingered, a cold spot in the air. The will to survive, or maybe just sheer idiotic desperation, finally kicked in. I had to know what was in this house with me. I had to face it. I grabbed the heavy flashlight I'd brought with me from the car, its beam cutting a nervous, shaky circle in the oppressive darkness. My objective was the hallway at the back of the house. My uncle had always kept the door at the end of that hall locked. He called it his study. It was the one room I'd never been allowed in as a kid. It was always the red door. A deep, blood-red door that stood out against the sterile white walls. As I crept down the hallway, the flashlight beam started to flicker, casting the corridor in a strobe of light and shadow. Each flash felt like a frame in a nightmare. The silence was gone, replaced by the sound of my own ragged breathing and a low, almost subaudible hum that seemed to vibrate through the floorboards. The red door was at the end of the hall, just as I remembered. But something was different. It was slightly ajar. A sliver of absolute, impenetrable blackness was visible in the gap. As I got closer, my flashlight flickering more erratically now, the brass doorknob began to turn. slowly at first, then violently, rattling in its socket as if someone or something on the other side was trying to wrench it open. The door creaked, swinging inward on its own, opening into that void. The hum intensified, and a wave of cold air washed over me, carrying a smell of damp earth and something else, something ancient and decayed. My flashlight died, plunging me into total darkness, with only the open doorway ahead, a gateway into nothing. I'm somewhere else now, a small, bright room. The doctors say I'm safe. They say the mind can play tricks on you, especially under stress and grief. They talk about trauma and hallucinations. They want me to talk about my uncle, about the house. But they don't understand. I can't talk about it. Because even here, in this clean, safe room, I still feel it, that cold presence. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I see that red door. I see the darkness behind it. And I know that what was in that house, it followed me. It's waiting. I see its shadow in the corner of my eye, a distortion in the air, a flicker at the edge of my vision. They tell me I'm getting better, but I know the truth. You can't lock a door on a shadow. It will always find a way in. It's just a matter of time.